Why do they hurt you? And then act like it never happened, like your pain doesn't matter, like your reality can be erased, like you're the one imagining things. They smile, they joke, they post, they move on, but you're still holding the shards of something they shattered and never acknowledged. Carl Jung didn't just explain this, he saw it for what it really is: a defense of the ego, a refusal of the shadow, a rejection of the soul, and he knew what it does to people like you. You try to move forward, but the silence haunts you, not just because it's quiet, but because of what it implies: that what happened doesn't matter, that the rupture was just in your head, that your reaction is the problem. It's a maddening paradox. You were hurt, but you're the one who feels guilty. You were disrespected, but now you're the one chasing closure. You were abandoned, but somehow you're the one apologizing. This is psychological inversion, the kind that fractures the spirit quietly. And maybe this isn't the first time. Maybe it started in childhood. A parent raised their voice, then made you feel guilty for crying. A teacher humiliated you and later told you to toughen up. A sibling bullied you, then gaslit you into thinking it was just a joke. And so began the training. To question your instincts, to mistrust your anger, to doubt your pain. But pain is not the enemy. Pain is information. Pain is memory. Pain is the soul saying, "This mattered." Carl Jung believed that we all carry a shadow, the disowned part of the self. Not just our bad traits, but everything we learned was unsafe to show. For some, that shadow is rage. For others, it's vulnerability. For many, it's the truth. When someone hurts you and pretends nothing happened, they're not just avoiding the conflict, they're avoiding their own reflection. To say, "I hurt you," would collapse the fantasy they've built around themselves. A fantasy of goodness, of innocence, of superiority. So instead, they erase it, they rewrite it, they pretend. Jung called this projection. When we unload the unbearable parts of ourselves onto someone else, instead of facing their guilt, they call you dramatic. Instead of owning their cruelty, they say you're sensitive. Instead of acknowledging your tears, they tell you to grow up. They're not seeing you clearly. They're seeing the part of them they can't deal with and pinning it to your face. This is how the shadow defends itself, by disowning its reflection, by vilifying the mirror. And if you're the mirror, you will be punished for showing the truth. This is why they ghost you, why they attack you, why they pretend. Because the moment they admit what they did, the mask begins to crack. And for many people, the mask is all they have. So what does that leave you with? No apology, no explanation, no repair. Just silence, followed by surface-level contact. A meme, a "hope you're well," a comment under your post. It's an attempt to resume the relationship without addressing the rupture. But connection without honesty isn't healing. It's performance. You don't need another scene. You need a reckoning, and you're not crazy for wanting that. The world trains empaths to overfunction, to be the peacemakers, the forgivers, the emotionally mature ones. But there's a cost. You end up doing the emotional labor for people who refuse to do their own. You become the container for guilt they won't carry, for shame they won't face, for conflict they won't name. And they call you strong, but secretly expect you to keep swallowing your truth. Carl Jung warned of this dynamic. He said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." But that's exactly what they won't do, and exactly what you must do. So here's the truth. Your reaction is not the problem. Your awareness is not weakness. Your silence may be the only boundary you have left. You're not too sensitive. You're tuned in. You see the distortion. And that makes you dangerous to people who live in denial. You're not meant to become like them. You're meant to become more you. That's the journey Jung called individuation, not pleasing others, Not playing roles, but becoming whole, even if it costs you the connection, even if it means standing alone. Because sometimes silence isn't avoidance. It's protection. Sometimes distance isn't cruelty, it's clarity. Sometimes detachment isn't numbness, it's healing. You don't have to keep explaining. You don't have to keep shrinking. You get to walk away from people who demand amnesia. You get to hold your memory as truth. But let's go deeper. Why does this hurt so much? It's not just the moment, it's the history it awakens. Every time you were told your feelings were too much, every time someone dismissed your pain with a joke, every time the room moved on while you were still frozen in shock. This isn't just about them. It's about the child inside you who needed someone to say, yes, that did happen, and it wasn't okay. Jung believed the unconscious holds all we've exiled, the uncried tears, the unseen truths, the unheard screams. And if we don't face them consciously, they erupt in cycles. This is your chance to break the cycle. You don't need their apology to heal, but you do need your own self-trust. The part of you that says, I believe me, even if they don't. The part of you that says, I don't need proof, I felt the rupture. And the part that says, I can grieve what I never got and still move forward. Jung once wrote, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. That's what denial is, not absence of memory, but a refusal of truth. You are not here to convince people of what they refuse to see. You are here to see clearly and live accordingly. Here's the most radical truth of all. People may never admit what they did. They may never change. They may never even think they were wrong. But you can still reclaim power. Because healing doesn't require justice. It requires truth. Not their truth. Not the filtered story. But your own unflinching soul-level truth. And when you live from that place, you stop needing people to give you closure. Because you become the one who closes the door. Not in bitterness, but in peace. So let's reframe this. They didn't abandon you because you were broken. They abandoned you because you became a mirror. They didn't go silent because you were wrong. They went silent because you saw too much. They didn't hurt you and pretend nothing happened because they didn't care. They did it because they couldn't bear to care. Not deeply, not honestly, not in a way that would cost them their mask. But that's not your burden to carry anymore. You're not here to teach grown people how to be decent. You're not here to prove your worth to avoid abandonment. You're not here to hold space for emotional children in adult bodies. You're here to individuate, to become whole, to see clearly and act accordingly. And sometimes clarity means saying no more pretending, no more bypassing, no more performance, just truth, just peace. Just presence. Carl Jung didn't offer comfort. He offered transformation. And that transformation begins when you stop gaslighting yourself, when you stop romanticizing pain, when you stop trying to be the bigger person at the cost of your own nervous system, when you stop chasing resolution and start choosing reality, even if it hurts, even if it's lonely, even if no one else claps for you. You are not crazy. You are not too much. You are not broken. You are simply awake. And awake people make sleeping people uncomfortable. That's okay. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be you. Jung once wrote, loneliness does not come from being alone, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself. But that changes when you start speaking your own language again, not filtered through other people's expectations. Not softened for people who refuse to listen, but raw, real, resonant. You will find your people, and more importantly, you will find yourself. They may never say sorry, but you can say, I forgive you for being unwilling. They may never acknowledge what they did, but you can say, I release the hope that you ever will. They may never grow, but you will. You are. So here is your permission to walk away without guilt, to protect your peace without explaining, to believe what your body knows, even when the world gaslights you, to feel everything and still stand tall. You are not broken, you are becoming. Carl Jung said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." So become the one who sees through the mask, become the one who honors the wound, become the one who doesn't pretend anymore. Because pretending is how the cycle survives. But truth is how it ends. If you made it this far, you are the kind of person who sees beneath the surface. Comment truth if this message spoke to you, and subscribe for more Carl Jung-inspired insight. Every week, we go deeper. You're not alone. You're awakening, and your clarity will set you free.